Wanting to keep my podcast sponsorships and advertisements free, I stayed away from such options. Instead, earlier this year, an alternative appeared. With my fiancée, we have joined a rapidly growing marketing network for a company which develops technologies and healthcare products based on traditional Chinese medicine. Instead of advertising products and services, I've decided to extend this opportunity to you. While this opportunity may not be for everyone and might still be unavailable in your country, I have no doubt that in time it could be, and therefore here we are. If you are looking for a side hustle, an alternative way of earning, and a space to grow as your own boss and manager, this program could be for you. Commission-based and fully remote, I believe it to be an opportunity for those who feel like a 9-to-5 model takes away too much of their life and isn't exactly worth their time. If you'd like to learn more, follow the link below. If your country is on the list, you're in. I look forward to working with you, and now, enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to WSPodcast. My name is Wojciech Salski, I'll be your host for today, and before we begin, may I just remind you, if you find this podcast entertaining, useful, in any way, shape or form, something to look forward to and to share with the world, then please make sure to follow, subscribe, and maybe share it with a friend, post it on your social media and whatnot. So otherwise, if you'd like to support the podcast in any other way, please follow the link below. You can also support me on Fountain, where you can actually support the podcast directly over there. If you know, for all the fellow Fountain lovers out there. And other than that, have a wonderful, wonderful time with me today. Thank you so much for being. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for listening, and for all the other support that I'm getting from you. So without further ado, we have quite a bit to cover. I'm hoping to dive into at least 5 quite hefty topics today, because it's about time that we discuss the Longevity Guidebook by Peter Diamandis. And I promised we'll get to this book in this series. It sort of turned out that in the end this season is all about health and well-being and somewhat of spiritual bend to it. So let's give it a try, shall we? I'll start by saying that the book itself is not a big one. It is not a small one either. It's somewhere in the middle in a sense of, how books go. But it's very practical. So I'll read some parts from the book today. I actually prepared some pages for you to look over. And I have some notes on screen as well as on my little notebook here. But the biggest advantage, I think, in this particular book on essentially becoming healthier and extending your health span, and we'll discuss that again in a second, is the fact that it's very, very practical. So in all the chapters, it feels like Peter's goal was to give you guidelines, hence the title, I assume, as well as actually offer his own routines insight. And so, of course, this is not to say that you should take all what he's doing, and he stresses that in every chapter, essentially, that not all that he does might be applicable to you. But for the most part, there are ways to improve your life today that will apply to everyone within each of those chapters. And I really appreciated the fact that there is one big chapter dedicated to women and women's health, which as much as I'm quite ignorant in that area, it was valuable for me to read it, and it certainly is valuable for me to have it in the book, as I will be sharing its insights with my fiancée, and of course I will be sharing my life with her. So it is beneficial for us to at least know how to help your loved ones, right? So I really appreciated that. I didn't expect it. It was just in the latter part of the book, and it is quite an extensive topic. So I learned a lot about you, ladies. So yeah, I guess let's give it a start. So first and foremost, just to remind, maybe recap, I don't remember which episode we've done this on recently. What's the difference between a health span and a lifespan? So a lifespan is the length of your life up until the point when you're dead. And the health span is the length of your life that you're living healthily and not necessarily up until your death. So this is to say essentially that there is a difference between living well and being able to essentially take care of yourself, deal with the menial tasks of the day and live in a relative comfort versus being bedridden and you're still alive, but maybe your health has deteriorated, and so you cannot walk, you cannot, enjoy the activities that you've been enjoying before. You stop being self-reliant, I guess. That would be for me, as I imagined it, that's the kind of border I would, like a threshold I would set to the point when you can take care of yourself and your basic needs on a regular basis. That's the health span. Or maybe you could say that the health span is the time that you're living in relative comfort, right? Without any overwhelming pains and difficulties from your body being out of ease, being diseased, right, or ill. So we'll start with the amazing concept, which I've briefly heard on one of the podcasts before, which is actually how I've gotten to be interested in this book, which is called Longevity Escape Velocity. So essentially, I'll try to maybe explain it. So your longevity escape velocity is the tipping point, sort of the threshold, the point at which medical and technological advance will be adding more, extending more to our, let's say health span, lifespan, than we age in that same time. So for example, if you will, over the course of your year, if the research is going to be making more than a year worth of advancements, essentially helping you extend the next year more than a year, you might be crossing the longevity escape velocity threshold. The quote here is, "We are rapidly approaching a point where for every year you live, science will give you more than a year back," right? So let me just read for you this part, because this is actually the crazy part about it. According to the one of quoted medical experts out there, Mr. Kurzweil, for those in reasonably good shape and with reasonable means, I believe they will have access to longevity escape velocity by the end of 2030. And just as a quote here as well from Peter, "Today, by some estimates, science and medicine are adding about 3 months to your lifespan every year. In the near future, additional scientific breakthroughs will extend your lifespan by more than a year for every year you remain alive. Once that happens, we can begin thinking about true longevity." This is what he calls the longevity escape velocity threshold, let's say. So maybe just to drive this point home and to mull over it a little bit, just picture this. It made me think of a title of a book I've seen, which said something like "Don't Die" as a title, which I find to be quite an interesting title to choose. I've not read that book yet. It so appears that we are, and I truly believe to be one of the chosen ones, in a sense that I was born in this day and age, it does truly feel to me like we are at a stage, at a threshold with where technology is going, and with our understanding of the world, the universe, even maybe ourselves and more as well, that we are really, really blessed to be alive today. And I hope that you feel the same. It seems to me that not only there are so many exciting and hopeful, even though life can seem bleak at times, hopeful aspects of our reality being basically shaped in front of our eyes, that not only will we be able to live longer, which I guess in and of itself is not that much of a great thing, because personally I don't know if I would like to be living longer if that existence would be me lying in bed in pain and not being able to do anything about it. But the health span extension is what does tickle my fancy, so to speak. It does feel like something I would resonate with, So when Peter's work introduced me to this idea, it really hit home in a sense that I am already feeling it nowadays, and we'll talk about some habits later on, and I'll share with you my habits and Peter's suggested habits. But recently, as I've been more and more aware through those books, through the Ultra Processed People book, through quitting smoking, which really helped me take charge of my health and stopping drinking so much. Actually, to be honest, quitting drinking altogether. It does seem to me that there are ways, especially in the quality of life, that you can improve almost for free, really, and I'll explore those in a second, that actually add to the life you live, to the quality of it. And I truly feel it. I've never felt as healthy as I feel nowadays in my life. And one of the things that changed over the past 2 years is I started fasting regularly, about which we've already had an episode. I'll actually link it for you. And I'll obviously link the morning habits one as well. So, and maybe ultra processed people, so reflecting on this longevity escape velocity, I thought about this idea that it almost feels like the only job we have in our day and age is to keep ourselves as healthy as long as possible, because the technology out there and what's already available, with stem cell treatments, with transplants, with plastic surgery, with all that, we don't know what the future holds, but I wouldn't be surprised if what Peter outlines in his book as the hopeful future is what will become our normal state of medicine in the coming decades. And myself, and probably yourself as well, because on average, my dear listener, according to the data that I gather on my platforms, you're somewhat slightly, but not much older than myself. It seems like we are in a very, very privileged time, and we have been given an opportunity to, if taken advantage of, to really prolong the quality and the quantity lengthwise of your life going forward. And obviously, the longer you stay healthy, the longer you can enjoy the many activities that there are to enjoy in life. So I just wanted this to be the first major theme for you to reflect on, is like, if I were to ask you, how long would you like to live? And maybe you're gonna say straight away, oh, I want to live forever. Or you're gonna say, oh, I want to live 150 years. I would then say, okay, but how long would you like to live healthily? And if those don't match, then you're sentencing yourself knowingly to a period of time when, even though you're not healthy anymore, you're still alive, and so you're potentially suffering. And the invitation here to begin with, and the whole theme of this episode and this series really, is to take action today and change what you can change on a regular basis to ensure that that span of time between your health span ending and your lifespan ending is minimized. Because I want to spend as much of my life as I can living as healthily as I can, so I can enjoy it fully, so I can be there for my loved ones, and so I don't have to be a burden on anyone, and even a burden on myself, realistically. So something to mull over. How long, based on what you're doing every day today, do you think your health will carry you? And we'll explore those in a second, what activities or what habits can you take advantage of to ensure that your health span is as long as possible. And of course, consider that with this longevity escape velocity potentially being there in the next 5-10 years, there is an active hope here. And so you actually are in charge of setting yourself up for success in that area, which I think, considering all the many things that people are worried about these days, let us not add health to your worry toolkit. Personally, I would not encourage you to worry at all, really. Just pray and have faith and do your best. But if you do have to worry, then at least minimize the worry that you're going to have about your health by taking advantage of the healthy habits today. And let's dive into those healthy habits. So first and foremost, let's do the diet. So we've already explored ultra processed people. The quote from Hippocrates that is a part of the book is, "Let your food be your medicine, and your medicine be your food." Your food is really, really important. According to the author, the single biggest needle mover for longevity is what you put in your mouth each day. It has a profound impact on your lifespan. There are many diets out there. There are many lifestyle shifts that you can do. We've discussed diet recently as well. One thing to note, if you remember, is if you only think about a diet, but you don't think about changing your lifestyle, I'm afraid you're doomed to fall back to your bad patterns if the situation, is a difficult one. An example here that I want to bring up is, I know a friend from work who confided in me at some point. We discussed the problem that he has with his diet. And one of the things that struck me when I was reflecting on this, preparing for the episode, is that he mentioned that when the time got tough, there was some difficulty at work and whatnot, even though he was on a diet of no sugary sweets, he fell back really hard into sugary sweets, because actually his habit is to eat sugary sweets, especially when he's stressed, right? It reminds me of a smoker's habit as well, that, especially if you're quitting smoking, if you've treated smoking as a way of relieving the pressure and getting yourself relaxed, even though it's an illusion, but let's many people say that that's the case, then you might find yourself smoking because your habit brought you back. It was the trigger and response kind of problem. And we'll talk about smoking later on, but please make sure to check out the Easy Way to Quit Smoking episode if you are a smoker and want to quit. It's by far the best book out there, in my opinion, to quit smoking. I did quit with it, so it's there for you, as it was for me. Now, in terms of food, The one thing that I have changed recently, and it's been a week and a few days since I started, is I know after doing some medical checkups that essentially refined sugar, any sort of sugar apart from naturally sugar in fruits, let's say, really badly interacts with my gut biome, and so I end up having pimples, spots, right? Zits, whatever you call it, acne. And I've been struggling with this for years. I always was told that, it's fairly normal, whatever. And recently I found a lady who offered help, did some, exams on me, tests, and found out that not only should I not eat sugar, I should also not eat wheat, which apparently is really bad for many of our gut biomes as well. Unfortunately, the majority of processed foods, a majority of foods out there which are not food but processed food, and for this somewhat controversial statement, please check out the episode Ultra Processed People about the book there. This means essentially, because it's so prominent, almost everything has either wheat, flour in it or sugar. Basically means that I'm only, for sugary stuff, I'm only eating fruits these days. And for every other business, I need to cook everything from scratch, which is also very beneficial for me in terms of my health, for sure. So what I found as I was researching it, and funnily enough, it is a part of this book as well, it's a curious study about sugar. So let me just read this for you. As brutal as it might sound, I think of refined sugar as poison. I try to avoid sugar, simple carbohydrates, and processed starches as much as possible. A 2007 study published in PLOS ONE, Public Library of Science, peer-reviewed open-access mega-journal, found that when given a choice, rats consistently preferred sugar water over cocaine, even when they were already addicted to cocaine. The preference was observed in 94% of the rats tested. Sugar is more addictive than cocaine, guys. Which I've heard about it before. I sort of, laughed it off at the time. But right about the time when I've decided to kick this habit of sugary sweets and adding sugar to my coffee and whatnot, I've started noticing, and then I read this in this book. I've noticed, and this is, it sounds so absurd, and yet if you really pay attention to people around you and yourself, I wouldn't be surprised if you spot it straight away. People act weird when it comes to sugar and sugary treats. I don't know where you're from, but in the UK, unfortunately, there is this cultural, I guess at this point, habit of getting a meal deal for lunch. And a meal deal sounds only good on paper. I mean, it is a deal in a sense of how much money you spend. It's not much relatively to what you get, but in terms of quality, I think it's a waste of money any day. It's mostly processed foods, a lot of sugar, a lot of salt, a lot of additives, and unfortunately, many people choose it consistently. And as we know, consistency creates results, right? It's not that you've eaten a sugary sweet one once one day, and so suddenly you're fat and you're unhealthy. But if you do it consecutively every day, consistently over a period of time, you'll see its results, right? Because you're fueling your body with these processed, difficult to digest, and often sort of stuff that often gets changed into a fat straight away. And you'll find over time that you're less healthy than you were before, even though you've not seen these gains on the daily. And it goes, it's important to note here, about sugary stuff and sugary sweet drinks and sugary sweets. Obviously, I'm not a dietitian. Please take it with a pinch of salt. This is how I understand the process. But from what I understand, what happens if you drink a very sugary drink or you eat very quickly a sugary treat is your levels of sugar spike in your blood so quickly that basically a big part of what you're ingesting gets transferred into your fat reserves straight away, because your body recognizes that it's already satiated with the amount of calories that it should get in that short span of time. So you sort of short-circuit it to respond by changing that sugar into your fat reserves, which is the crazy part about how can you get fat not eating fat but only sugar. Apparently, it's because your body just sort of wires this as a notification. You've eaten enough, you don't need to digest more, and so sends it through to your fat reserves straight away. And if you don't follow any fasting routine, if you don't follow intermittent fasting, and if you eat a lot of carbohydrates and highly processed, simple and refined sugars and other stuff, essentially what you're doing to yourself is you're continuously overbearing the system with the amount of sugar. And so what the system does, it will have to keep pushing it to the side to your reserves to keep you okay. But obviously over time, that means that the mass of your body, the fat mass of your body will increase. And the biggest problem with this fat mass increasing is the visceral fat, which is the fat around your important organs within the body, which is less easily noticeable to begin with, but that's the one that actually causes us more damage going forward. So personally, my invitation to you is try and don't eat sugar, essentially. At least try and don't drink sugary drinks and don't eat like really processed sugary sweets. Maybe some honey to your tea or, some fruits, fair enough. A cake once in a while, but if every day you're giving yourself a shot or two or three of highly sugarized drinks and foods, you're not only wiring your brain to be in a habit of doing that, but you're also gaining those unprofitable gains that might come back to you as as an issue going forward. And actually, when it comes to fasting, Peter has his own fasting routines, but I won't be sharing exactly the fasting routine. Instead, I'll just read this. There are two ways to improve your burning of calories. One is to choose the order in which you eat your food, which is interesting. First in line, you should eat the fiber-packed vegetables from your plate. Then you should eat the protein. And then at last, you should eat the carbohydrates. And hence, if you switch it around and you start from carbohydrates, your body will put more into your reserves going forward because it will feel the satiation earlier. And the quote here I wanted to read is, when you ask longevity experts like David Sinclair, they'll tell you that eating less is one of the most powerful ways to extend health span and lifespan. Research consistently shows that mice and rats subjected to a calorie restriction diet live significantly longer than their counterparts. These animals not only live longer, but also show delayed onset of chronic diseases such as cancer, cardiovascular disease, and neurodegenerative disorders. So, apparently they did one of the research on monkeys, and they found that monkeys that were fed just 30% less showed a reduced incidence of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. And they also looked much better, which is interesting that essentially just by reducing, or maybe by fasting regularly, or by reducing your calorie intake, you can get yourself in better shape. And personally, I will completely attest to that. I've been really mindful about what I put into my body over the past few weeks, and especially weeks, but over the past, I think, 2 years, roughly. And not only do I feel, especially that I'm, intermittent fasting daily, not only do I feel much better in terms of my energy levels, but I also can tell that I'm burning fat while building muscle. And of course, this does not mean that the only thing you need to do to build muscle and burn fat is to not eat as much. That would be a false positive. But if you do exercise fairly regularly, and at the same time you introduce some sort of intermittent fasting and you stop eating all the crap out there, you will see results. And, instead of eating a lot of processed sugar and processed fats, try a diet rich in, whole foods, protein, fiber, and healthy fats. And essentially, this will increase your health span and lifespan accordingly. Now, in terms of the third point, which we've already touched upon, is of course the exercising and muscle mass and grip strength. So, quote here is, "Muscle is the organ of longevity." An interesting thing to note, and that's on page 28, is this. The science backs up Jacinto's experience, and Jacinto is a former Marine and lifelong fitness enthusiast who's now 78 and really healthy as an example here. Studies have shown that resistance training like weightlifting can significantly slow down and even reverse aspects of aging. It preserves muscle mass, maintains bone density, improves metabolic health, and enhances cognitive function. Exercise is the single most important pro-longevity activity you can undertake. The two things here to note is that muscle mass decreases approximately 3 to 8% per decade after the age of 30, and this declines at an even higher rate after the age of 60. Why do you care about the muscle mass and grip strength? Apparently, grip strength is actually the closest correlated to people's longevity, which is interesting. But the point here is that by treat your muscles like an armor. It literally is your inside your body armor, right? Around your organs, around your bones, all of that. So by making it stretchy, by stretching, bendy, by stretching, and strong, and increasing it, since you will be losing it over time by default, you're extending the time you will have with your body being held up altogether by it. And it goes even further to say that apparently majority of deaths past a certain age, like 70 or something, are related to the person falling and breaking their hip. It's a weird reality that we live in, that because of our bones are becoming brittle over time, if you lose your balance as an old person and you fall and you break your hip and you're bedridden, you're much more likely to die later on. And so, an example here I wanted to talk about actually is my fiance's grandma, because she's right now, 94. She's proper old. She's old enough to also be at this point, quite out there with her mind, every now and then going a bit off topic and so forth, but fair play, she's an old lady now. And she was recently, a few months ago, or a year maybe even, a few months ago, I think, they moved her to like a care home, because she was she was becoming more and more of a problem to herself and to the house. And of course, both my fiance and her family are working, and so it became apparent that grandma needs to go and be taken care of by someone else. And ever since she moved there, she would barely walk before that. She walked from one room to another, but she would usually just sit down. And she was very stiff and brittle. And ever since she moved there, where they actually, I'm pretty sure they have twice a day some sort of a workout. Obviously, it's not like a chest press of 150 kilos on a bench, kind of a workout. It's a workout relatively necessary for their age and ability. But because they have those workouts occurring, regularly, her balance, her strength, and her basically like her agility to move improved so much that nowadays she walks up the stairs on her own without her cane. When I saw it for the first time, I was amazed, and she was so, like, you can tell that she's getting the satisfaction of showing you that she can do it. Instead of grabbing your hand and struggling, or maybe taking the elevator. When we arrived there with her for the first time, she used the elevator. Nowadays she walks up and down the stairs herself. So, and this is the only major change in her daily routine is that exercise, right? Because other than that, they sit around, they chat together, they mumble something, they eat, and that's it. But this is the point, right? By improving your strength, your muscle mass, your grip strength, your stretching ability, and your balance, you're much more likely to prolong your health span and hence your lifespan. And it doesn't take much to do so. You should, of course, Peter's guidebook is aimed at people who are much older than where I am in my life right now. But knowing what I know from this book and from other books about health, and knowing how I feel in my own body when I work out or when I don't, when I feel strong and when I don't, I can honestly say you gotta start working out. And this applies to both men and women. I think there is a great misunderstanding, and it's actually included in the book as well, in the women's chapter. There is a great misunderstanding about women's workout routines. Among women, it's much more popular for women to stretch and do some Pilates and yoga and cardio, whereas men are all about building muscle. I think we should find balance between. I think men should try and incorporate more of stretching and cardio into their workouts, as well as, the strength training, resistance training, while women should take charge of working out and building muscle mass. And this doesn't mean you need to become a hench woman. This just means working your muscles to the point where they are growing, they are strengthening, and so they will be able to hold you up longer. And now an interesting thing that I wanted to touch on is obviously sleep. There is a separate chapter for sleep, but since we've discussed it last week and I want to touch on different things, I'll just read one part of it for you. 48. Yeah. So, getting morning sunlight. There is nothing more effective for jumpstarting your day, locking in your circadian rhythm, and boosting your mood than getting out to watch the sunrise. And if you can't wake up that early, at least spend 20 to 30 minutes outside soaking up natural sunlight as early as possible. Exposure to natural light in the morning helps synchronize the circadian rhythm, signaling the body to reduce melatonin production, making you feel more awake and alert during the day. Morning sunlight exposure also boosts the production of serotonin, a neurotransmitter that influences mood, energy level, and focus. And here a quote from Matthew Walker, which we've explored, whose book we've explored last week. Human beings are the only species that deliberately deprive themselves of sleep for no apparent gain. Many people walk through their lives in an underslept state, not realizing it. And the note from Peter is, please make getting a solid 8 hours of sleep a priority for yourself. You know, this is fairly straightforward point at this point. You gotta take care of your sleep. During sleep, as we've explored, not only does your brain sort of resets, your body relaxes and enjoys a recalibration and rest, but also that's the time when your gains will come. So if you are trying to get that muscle mass increase, if you are trying to become stronger, if you do exercise and eat well, you need to make sure to sleep, to let your body basically recuperate those strains and losses and build up the muscle and the strength within, right? You gotta rest up. A big part of a good workout is a good night's sleep. And so please remember about it. And I'll link, of course, below the episode from last week, Why We Sleep, which is very relevant. Now, the fourth chapter is going to be slightly a shorter one. I just wanted to talk briefly about it because I think, it's something that I need to do for sure. It's good that I've been recently to check myself, and now I know what I'm sort of not supposed to eat, essentially. But there is more to it, and for sure we need to check it up. So it's about the importance of regular checkups, right? Quote here is, what gets measured gets improved. Basically, Peter emphasizes that you need to be proactive about your healthcare. You need to, at minimum, according to the author, spend annually checkups to detect issues early when they are most treatable, right? And nowadays, with all the tools that he mentions, and the chapter is quite hefty on this one, it suffices to say that there are ways to check that you are okay in many areas, and it doesn't have to be that expensive. And basically the point here is that avoiding the doctor is like gambling, right? If an interesting thing is, I find that I'm most often regularly at a dentist because teeth is that one space, your mouth is that one space which when it hurts, you just can't stop it. But you can't take it, you gotta go to the dentist, right? But somehow we manage to go through our lives with other problems and just take it as a normal thing to deal with it. I know that, for example, for me, I've been having pain in my lower back for quite some time, and even though I am doing certain activities every day to improve that state, I have not yet been at a proper checkup, and this is definitely an invitation for me to look into this deeper. Now the quote here is, "Knowledge is power. Almost all chronic diseases can be slowed, stopped, and reversed with the tools and treatments available today. And the first step to regaining your health is knowing what is happening inside your body. Your greatest enemy is ignorance." And another quote, "Most people have no idea they have a serious medical condition because they don't bother to look." And funnily enough, the quote at the beginning of the chapter is, "Don't die from something stupid. the best way to know what is going on inside your body is to look. So this is your invitation, and I won't go any further in this discussion right now. This is your invitation to consider when was the last time, if ever, that you've checked your health. And of course, it might be quite pricey to do a whole body checkup, but maybe there are some areas of your body which you are, at greater risk, or you feel like something might be not exactly right. And please consider checking yourself up about it. And of course, in the book, there are many, many examples of the tests that you can do. But personally, I think, each of us knows deeper what maybe is bothering them, like for me, the lower back. And so that's where I would start, for example, for myself, and maybe this is a goal for next year to deal with. Now, finally, my favorite topic, habits, right? We're always about habits in this show, for good reason, I guess. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." Let's see. So the quote here is from the book. "Routines are one of the most important mechanisms of creating long-lasting positive changes to your health. As Kevin Kelly said about routines and habits, the purpose of a habit is to remove that action from self-negotiation." And this is a big point, guys. This is a huge point, actually. The whole problem about you grabbing that sweet the moment it lands on your plate, or asking for a cigarette the moment someone else lights up, is because you've trained yourself to do it. You have a habit of eating sweets. You have a habit of smoking cigarettes. You might have a habit of XYZ. You certainly, hopefully, have a habit of brushing your teeth in the morning. You can create your reality tomorrow by choosing the right habit today. The quote from the book is, "The future of longevity is built daily in the choices you make and the habits you reinforce." What you do, this just reminds me, and I recently had this sort of epiphany. If you've ever watched the movie Gladiator by Ridley Scott, an amazing movie, the first one, second one, let's not talk about it. What we do in life echoes in eternity. I think there might be some spiritual aspect to it. You could argue about that, but for me, it actually resonates with this idea that what I do today echoes in eternity of my life. So the choice I make today to eat healthily or not is a vote, as Brené Brown puts it, for the kind of person I wish to become. I'm building Wojtek from the future today, What I eat today will become a part of my body over the next 7 to 12 hours. I'm literally creating myself with that. What I do today will put a certain, brick on a certain platform for tomorrow. And the habits that you create and the habits that you destroy that are not serving you are the backbone of your quality of life, right? So sleep, stress management, social connection, purpose, environment, diet, exercising, all of these as small consistent choices will play a huge part in your health span and your lifespan. It's literally that simple. You can gain the benefits of doing the right thing today, tomorrow, or you can gain the benefits of doing the wrong thing today, but you will have to pay the price for it tomorrow. It's this price to benefit ratio. Are you willing to pay now to enjoy it later, or enjoy it now but pay it later? And this essentially is at the root to majority, if not all, of your daily routines and habits and your choices. If you're not planning to live long and you're not planning to live healthily, then be my guest. Enjoy all the ultra-processed foods you can take. Enjoy all of the drugs out there that will, impact your health in a negative way. Burn all the bridges with all the people around you. Live as if there is no tomorrow, and essentially you will create no tomorrow for yourself because of it, which is a funny irony about this attitude, right? We become what we repeatedly do. Again, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. But the same, we are what we repeatedly do. Bad quality of life then is not an act but a habit. What is your quality of life and what would you like it to be? That is the question, I guess. And in terms of the habits that I will encourage you yet again to consider is, first of all, what Peter does is when he wakes up, the first thing he does is he does red light meditation and relaxation, sort of. There is a bunch of different things here, but he exposes himself to the light, he does meditation, he relaxes, then he reads, writes, prioritizes, and then he goes for a workout. We do not stop exercising because we grow old. We grow old because we stop exercising. A quote by Kenneth Cooper. So workouts, and then the 141. Yeah. And then what not to do. Smokers are 4 times more likely to develop gum disease and twice as likely to lose teeth than non-smokers. It should go without saying that if you smoke, quit. Smoking weakens your immune system, making it harder for your body to fight any infections. It also increases the risk of oral cancer, periodontal disease, and tooth loss. This is important for me because I was once a smoker. And I know also, I've noticed that in the episode How to Quit Smoking is becoming more and more popular. And, it was the first episode of this year. And I'm very happy that it's popular. That means that it's helpful and that people are finding it. And, I hope that it helps you and I hope that you will go. So please follow the link below for the episode and you can find information there about the book that I'm talking about. But this is really important for me, not only because I was a smoker, but also my fiance's mom is a smoker. And you can tell she's struggling greatly to kick this awful addiction. I would say this to sort of finish the point. Consider what you would like your life to look like into the future. And what does it take for you to get there, If you'd like to be healthy, strong, muscular, shredded, whatever it is, consider what kind of activities, what do people that are like that or have whatever you want to have do. If you want to be rich, look into what rich people do. If you want to be calm, look into what the calm people do. If you want to be muscular and strong, look into what muscular and strong people do. And maybe one of the best, easiest way to go about it is if you have someone around you that is doing something that you would like to do. If you have a friend who's shredded and you'd like to learn how to get shredded, ask them. If you have a friend that has a really good, healthy relationship with their girlfriend and you'd like to have that with yours, ask them. If you'd like to become wealthier and start investing and learn about, how to make your life better in that regard, ask someone who has some success. Personally, many of the things that I do these days, I do because of the books that I've read and things that I've learned on other podcasts. But also some of the activities that I do because I've noticed someone doing them. And either it was a friend of mine or someone that is a role model that I found online. If there is something out there that you'd like to do more of, then there is a way to do it. And essentially, ultimately, your health span and your lifespan, and whether you will get to the longevity escape velocity in a healthy and strong state or in a weak and ill state, is up to you. So with the Longevity Guidebook, with this book, you'll certainly have some guidelines on how to make it so. But ultimately, I think it starts with your everyday habits. And many of them, as I said earlier, are for free. It doesn't cost me a dime to fast 10, 8, 16 hours a day. It doesn't cost me any more than buying a ready-made food to make my own food, to know what is inside my food. It costs me a little, but little to none considering the return on investment to go for an exercise class or to hire a coach for a week or two to learn how to work out, or to ask someone. So none of the habits, none of the activities we've mentioned are overly expensive, and many of them are for free. And the one that is certainly for free is quitting processed foods and sugar. And I know it's going to be difficult for you to begin with. It is for me. But being a week into it and still having some, wishes to eat some more sugar, I can tell that it's a good choice to make. I can feel my body much healthier, much leaner, much stronger, and my brain fog is not there when I eat healthily. So consider all of these things, and ultimately you don't have to do any of it. This is just an information, entertainment, hopefully a podcast that gave you some benefit. And I hope that you'll find what you're looking for in that regard. In terms of the challenge for the week, I would say start small. So maybe choose one of these longevity habits and deploy it in your life, do it for a week, for 2, for a month, and see what happens, Let me know. I would love to see more people out there feeling healthy, feeling strong, feeling empowered. This is the whole point of the show. So, good luck with that. Good luck with escaping, with achieving the longevity escape velocity in style and with health. Other than that, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.